This podcast contains discussions of violent and disturbing content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is strongly advised. The views and opinions expressed are for informational and entertainment purposes only and do not necessarily reflect those of the podcast's creators, hosts, or affiliated parties. If you or someone you know is in need of support, please reach out to a qualified mental health professional. This week's episode is brought to you by listeners like you, the ones who stay even when the silence feels a little too close and the shadows lean in to listen with you. Thank you for still being here. On this episode of the podcast, they don't like Blade, especially the fact that it's like you've been training a dog all along to attack a certain thing, and these dogs are ready to go wild because they see the target right in front of them, and if only they could. That's not even the half of it. Buckle up. The ride's just getting temporal.
Prepare for warp speed as we embark on a voyage through the vast expanse of science fiction in movies and television series. From distant planets to alien civilizations, we delve into the heart of the unknown, unraveling the tales that have captivated audiences for generations. Get ready to unlock the secrets of the universe on Code Flix.
Greetings, fellow sci-fi and fantasy lovers. Welcome to Code Flix, where we explore the TV shows and movies that shape our imaginations. I'm Andre Bonner, and in today's episode, we see the evolution of the vampire war in Blade 2. What happens when a vampire movie turns into an outbreak movie? Suddenly, it's not just about fangs in the shadows. It's about containment, chaos, and a ticking clock. Blade 2 leans hard into that shift, transforming vampires from hidden predators into a full-blown biological threat. Blade is back, and this time the vampires are literally turning heads. Fast, brutal, and unforgivable. Somewhere between the bloodshed and the mayhem, I almost missed Donnie Yen. Completely not in the role I expected, but still leaving his mark. With daylight approaching, time is running out. Faced with a new and far more dangerous enemy, Blade does the unthinkable. He teams up with vampires to stop a threat that could wipe out both species. Because when the night itself is at risk, even monsters need allies. This one is for the history books. These are my personal insights and interpretations of Blade 2, including some of my favorite moments and characters. So, obviously, I have to start by saying that for a movie that was produced in 2002, it's pretty great, especially in the use of CGI. It doesn't ruin the movie at all. It's has its place, right? Blade's fight with Nomak at that halfway point in the movie was great, right? There was a mix of CGI. There was a great, a mix of special effects. It doesn't ruin the moment for me, you know. I have to mention cherry flavored water must be nice. And I'm talking about, that scene at the point where Blade is in the fortress with the vampires and, the blood, he falls into the blood. At least I think he dives into the blood, after being shot after, you know. Then there is when he emerged from the blood and Whistler see him and him's like, Whistler say, "Hey kid, catch," and throw him dark as game. And I mean, that was excellent. Excellent. Chef kiss. Right? Yeah, so those are some of my favorite moments. Let me just get into the analysis of the movie. All right. So in the opening scene, we basically get introduced to Jared Nomak, who is some kind of new kind of vampire. At least you can see that he's sucking blood, right, from vampires, right? And they're in a underground blood bank and thing, so they weren't expecting nothing like this at all, right? When the attack happens, we see him unhinge him jaw. From the movie start, we notice him have a little line going from the top of his bottom lip down to underneath him chin. And that is, it splits opening up in a grotesque way, and him brutally murdered the vampires, right? And him talk as if he's not even a vampire, right? Yeah. So next we see Blade basically going to a location undisclosed at the time that is on the hunt for Whistler, because as the end of the first Blade movie showed, we would have recognized that Whistler would have been transformed, right? And he would have taken his life. At least we thought he took his life, right? Because we hear the gunshot when Blade gave him the gun. So I wonder how is it that him alive, right? So Blade hunt down and kill all of the vampires that were holding Whistler. Him hold on upon one of them basically, and him tell him say, "Yo, me I go remember you," It's basically him say, "Yo, no take me forget you, me come back for you," right? And that's important for what happens later on in the movie. So Blade take him back to the lair. We meet up with a new guy that basically operate like Whistler named Scud, and he is a bit apprehensive about the fact that Blade brought Whistler there, right? And the fact that Blade is willing to risk getting Whistler off blood, right? Basically like an addiction, right? He tried to, help him to quit cold turkey. So Blade give him an ultimatum. We say, "Yo, in the morning, I go open them blinds there, and whether or not you're cured or not, So my friend, you better cure yourself." Right? Which he does impressively, right? In the morning, the man come and he literally like in our shadows and thing, and you wonder if he cured or not. And then you see him put him face into the light. You see that his eyes are no longer, looking vampirish, right? So little after that, and there is some, I would call it ninja vampires, basically, that come to the lair, them lick out knock out everything so you couldn't see them basically and thing coming in. But Blade was ready for them and thing, and had even a fight with one of them who is later revealed to be Nissa, right? Nissa is the daughter of basically the vampire overlord Eli Damiskinos, right? And they basically come basically for recruit Blade to help them to catch Nomak, right? To stop him from unleashing terror, because he has what they call a virus that he's basically spreading. So every time that him actually bite a victim, basically, like mosquito, them can transfer, their vectors that can transfer viruses to you, right? So that's exactly how these vampires are, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, guys, it's that kind of episode. So, buckle up. Buckle up. All right. So, basically, of course, Blade is, a little bit like on his P's and Q's because, the fact say he has been hunting vampires, and here vampires now, they want his help to hunt to hunt down vampires for save them, right? And them even use the fact that he loves humanity to say, boy, say, boy, with the Reapers them done with we, as vampires, they're coming after your precious humans, right? Yeah. Go meet Eli Damaskinos. He is grotesque looking, I have to say, right? Great makeup work they did with him, and I guess that's kind of mask and thing, but yeah, he looked really grotesque, and the fact that he's like the elder vampire kind of thing. So they reveal that they have a team that they have been basically building to hunt Blade called the Blood Pack, right? And these are supposed to be some elite group of vampires, and they don't like Blade, especially the fact that it's like you've been training a dog all along to attack a certain thing, and these dogs are ready to go wild because they see the target right in front of them, and if only they could, right? But you know, Blade, in his own way, in a really awesome way, right? That moment as well. I should have mentioned that earlier. He basically overpowers one of the Blood Pack man them, right? Renard. And basically overpower a bit a show of force, and him just basically say, yo, if you try to do anything to me, I put a bomb to your back of your forehead, back of your head, and me will just blow out your head. Right? I think, and so, he's like, all right, I'm gonna behave because, what I'm saying, this is serious. I don't want to, die, right? So the group, assemble like a militia, like a military unit, elite unit, and thing with everybody deciding, say, what they're there for and thing. And Whistler, him wanted to go into the nightclub because they're supposed to be going into a nightclub, which is a vampire hideout slash safe house, because since Blade has been hunting vampires, they've had to find a way to hide amongst human beings. So they kind of have one location where Blade ne really would have known, say, at this so. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Which Nissa shows him, say, them use some kind of infrared ink basically that can only be seen, by ultraviolet light or so. Yeah. So them their club and thing, things are pop off and thing. Of course, Reapers decide to, embark and thing. Oh, before that, let me mention that Scott end up in the vehicle, right? Being the we call it now tactical strategy, and sitting there looking at monitors. Whistler is on the roof with a sniper rifle trained on the location. So he's outside, right? Blade goes into the nightclub. So Reynard now, him thinking that Blade not really spot what him a do. Him start training him rifle on Blade, right? In gun. And it has the little scope light on him and thing. And him now realize that when I'm fellow teammate have to show him, say, hey, Blade have you trained on as well with his gun with the scope on you. You know what I'm saying? They can see light shining back right at the Reynard. It's like, oh, so it's almost like, that moment was good as well, So the Reapers them start to come in at the club now and them break up everything, massive things start happening and thing. They discover that the Reapers are immune to most of the weaknesses that vampires or the traditional vampires have, right? Except for the UV exposure, right? So the whole time them there and them try to use silver, garlic, whatever it is. That none of that no work, right? A couple of the team members get, attacked. Two of them at least got bitten, right? One fully turned and the other one him hide fee wound, I don't know why him hide fee wound, right? That's Lighthammer. And, they have to kill Priest because him fully turn, right? And Blade basically expose him to sunlight, right? In the meantime, Scud appears to get, and I say appears, to get a attack from couple Reapers on the vehicle and thing, and them have to turn on the UV light. Them and I saw him gonna say them can use the UV light and thing. Little after everything done now, Whistler returned to the group, and at this moment in time, seeing it for the first time, I would have been like, what's up with Whistler? Whistler's not like this. You know what I'm saying? Him seem to not have a good reason to be missing for a good little while. I must tell them say him locate one Reaper, him run into some Reaper trouble and him deal with it and thing. While everybody else, they are basically a battle for their life with a Reaper, Dr. Blade, right? And Whistler now, he leads them to the sewers where I'm sure them say one Reaper a try to escape back into one underground thing there, but it seemed to be that him get stuck, right? And him can't move, right? And the fact say it look very weak and them was able to theorize and postulate that this Reaper or most of the Reapers, they are metabolizing much, much faster than the regular vampires. So that's why they need to feed much, much more and more frequently, right? This six, one of the dead Reaper them and thing with the help of Scott tried to open that sea was terrible as well. Scott is like, I'm not touching that bee. And Blade is like, sissy, I was like, I was like, yo, bro, you're not even now you could go push up, baby. You know, me don't like them thing. Anyways, Scott and Whistler have this little thing, where Scott tried to find out about Whistler, and Whistler kind of give him a little thing, just tell him, say, boy, so everything going on thing, and, and they Scott, seem to have developed some new UV weapons, like a bomb kind of thing. It's almost like a stun grenade. So it shoots out UV light in all directions and thing, which will be very, very useful later on. So the plan now is for them to get to go after the Reapers them in their own domain. And they're going to do this, Blade says, in daylight. And everybody's like, what? What are you talking about, bro? And I'm saying, we are vampires. We can't hunt in daylight. Not like you. You know what I'm saying? So, nonetheless, of course, because Blade rocks, they go down there to the sewers. And Lighthammer transform fully now, right? Him turn now into a Reaper. Him kill Snowman. I must mention, I did not. I mean, I've had to watch this film several times to realize that Donnie Yen was Snowman, right? I didn't even realize it. Call me a complete lack of observational skills there because I'm like, what? As after watching it a couple times, I said, wait, Donnie Yen that, right? And it's not his most interesting role, I would say, but nonetheless, he's in it, right? Verline, what's her name? Lighthammer's significant other and partner, right? she recognized the Lighthammer done for and thing, and him coming after her, she just exposed the two of them to sunlight by opening up one manhole cover over them, right? And once they're exposed to sunlight, them just basically just disintegrate, right? We'll be right back after these messages. Most people don't even know this podcast exists. That's how it survives. No sponsors, no money, just a signal moving through the dark from one listener to the next. If you found it, you're already in deeper than you think. Share it with someone who can handle what lurks beneath the surface. Leave a comment so I know you're still standing when the night gets loud. Every listen, every follow, every share, it sharpens the blade. Because some stories don't belong in the daylight. Chupa, him basically turn pan Whistler now, right? Ready for have a full-on retaliation because Priest dead, which is one of their own. So Blade must lose somebody to know. Or that they must say, right? So, and then they and thing and not knowing say Whistler, because they were issued pheromones to attract the Reapers, right? Whistler they are use the pheromones then basically to attract Reapers there, basically to get him out of that situation. Right? And them come in and then basically devour Chupa. I'm done. Now, Assad and Nissa, right? Those are the two that came for Blade initially, right? Them get ambushed and Assad get killed, right? Blade save Nissa just in time. And we can see for a good little while now that Blade have like a little soft spot for Nissa after them have this talk one at a time, Like she say, you ain't different from us, so yeah, behave like you're different and thing, and thing on, yeah. So Nissa is able to detonate the UV bomb and that kill the Reapers them except for Nomak. Another blink and you miss it moment is that moment where Blade is in the sewer water and underneath the water you can see Reapers them come after him. And him tell Nissa to go away and activate the UV bomb them. Then activate the new UV bomb them under there. And all of the Reapers them jump out of the water. That's it. And Blade just slice every one of them as they come up out of the water. I'm like, yo, that is cool, bro. Yeah. So they have been injured and thing. Reaper them totally not gone out except for Nomak. Now Nomak, he whispers something to Whistler. Right? We see that happening. Nissa and Reyna them was able to evade blast and thing. And Nissa get seriously injured and thing. So Blade give her a drink and blood. Right? Mirroring what happened in the previous film where Blade gave his mother a drink of his blood. Yeah. So, Damaskinos forces them arrive now and them capture Blade because now they realize, boy, they have Blade and thing because it was all a scam, right? Whistler and Scud, the whole of them. So when Blade awakens now, it is revealed that the Reapers them was engineered by the Moschnos, and him team and thing to create a stronger breed of vampires. The ones them when I have the natural weakness to sunlight and silver and all of that, So you might try to get them there. So Nomak was the first one, and Nomak is his own son, right? Which Whistler kind of figure out because him wonder how he get one of the ring and him toss it and Nissa take it up and she's like, how could you? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so she know now, she recognizes something not right. Then Scott reveals himself, right, in a most dramatic fashion because Blade having the remote control for the bomb on Reynard's head, he's like, yo, they go just done Reynard, one thing, and Blade touch it and it doesn't blow up Reynard. So Scott is like, yo, I have to tell you, B, man, I had you all along, man, and ting and ting and ting. And he reveals how he was recruited and he's a familiar and he preferred to be a familiar when everything got on. But Blade is like, yo, but did they pan you from the beginning, bro? They didn't know when them turn you, right? And guess what? The bomb ain't a dud. So him have it bomb in hand, things say, everything all right. Blade just blow him up, right? And to me, I can say that in a way I feel a kind of catharsis for that particular thing, but at the same time, it's like, yo, Blade probably wasted this moment just to do that. But yeah, tell what you think. If you think that I'm missing something from that point, right? So, them kick the crap out of Blade and the mosquitoes take Blade and harvest Blade blood, because them I say them want them know say something in I'm blood is what can, like the previous film anyways, that they could find a way to get the key to immortality in sunlight, Yeah. So Whistler is able to free himself, right? In great fashion, right? And him escape from Reynard now and thing, taking blade is sword and jacket and thing. And him go where Blade is, right? Because there's distraction, basically Normac has come home, right? Because initially they must say, boy, them have the secret location that there is no way that Normac could know about. But apparently when Blade and Whistler got captured, he was able to follow them, perhaps because he had some way to do that, right? And that was the plan all along, to lure them into the trap to be able to get them going back to that secret lair that them say they have and thing. So yeah, Nomak basically, allow for that. When Whistler gets, to escape from Reynard, because him after revenge for him father and thing, right? Why Nissa, she did and she contemplate the fact that boy, her father, they tell her nothing about this, and the fact that him now have no regard for him own offspring, right? She betray the mosquitoes by the sealing off them escape route. Now Nomak kills the mosquitoes in gory fashion, basically, latching on to him and sucking his blood, and stuff. After the mosquito failed to negotiate with him, because like the mosquitoes I say, oh, we will do this or we will do that and thing, and I'll be better, whatever. Right. And then of course Nomak is like, yo, I can't leave you at all, good sister. You have to go too. And he bites her, infecting her with the Reaper virus and thing. And then the final confrontation with Blade and Nomak occurs, as I mentioned before, after Blade is rescued. Him jump into the pool of what I suspect looks like cherry flavored water, guys. It does not look like blood, because I don't think blood looks like that. Unless you're able to find some way to, I don't know, right? So somehow, somebody who's a scientist and who a biologist, please drop it in the comments how this would be possible for the blood to be curdling in that way. And yeah. Anyways, I guess Blade is supercharged after getting all that drink, right? Yeah. And so, engaged in a battle with Nomak and him, him, him get knocked down, Nomak knock him back and thing, and he managed now to stab Nomak in the heart, basically, in that organ that, basically, yeah, weakens Nomak now totally, right? After Nomak the there for a little while, you can see boy him really want to end him suffering, so him kill himself with blade sword, which fulfill Nissa's dying wish. Blade, I mean, fulfills Nissa's dying wish now for have her, be not taken over as a Reaper strain, right? So him take her outside into the nice sunlight, and I see sunlight for the first time and thing. And of course, she disintegrates immediately, right? So the funny moment comes at the end of the film, right? I mean, this is a nice little ending to the film. Blade goes to London and tracks down Rush, right? You remember Rush from the previous, at the beginning there, where I said that at the hideout that they found Whistler? Yeah. Him go on strip club and him sit down and look, behind one glass and think say one girl I go come out or some stripper and it's Blade. Can you can imagine now? Just imagine for me that Blade has been waiting probably for this man to come in. Probably somebody has came in there before looking. Blade does something else run about. They're like, I look for somebody to strip or they're like, yo, brother, just strip then. Cause since you did it, behind the glass, you must be there for strip. You know what I'm saying? Can you imagine? Yeah, but yeah, it ends really, really, on that high note and stuff, right? I'm gonna say that doing this particular movie has really brought back a lot of memories, and as I mentioned, initially, some of these things they they really would have done well for the franchise as well because and for movies overall because one can infer that even Marvel Cinematic Universe, this was where, these group of films was where they would be able to use it as a launching pad for the films that would proceed. Because remember, Blade is one of the comic book heroes them that we would have had, for the first time being shown in the 20th century on film, right, in such a way, right? In a really, really good way. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there have been some adaptations, some stuff, but this would have been where it would have started. And I can't help feel a sense of pride as a black man that it is a black lead who would have been able to do such a thing, right? Like many who have stepped into certain roles, since then, right? Could even say, hey, this is the way how it ought to be, this is the template that we're going to be using to proceed from here. Yeah. So that is it for my analysis and interpretations. So these are my theories about some unresolved mysteries and plot points. So two questions that comes up, repeatedly about this movie. What is worse than a vampire? Hmm? A vampire with a virus that can turn those vampires into super vampires, have the capabilities to decimate the whole ecological framework. Because if you wipe out humans, right, you'll be at the top of the food chain. And then where would you be without them, right? Because the way how this virus operates, from what we understand, this particular organism needs to feed frequently. And that means that more humans, more population will go. So they will have to find some sophisticated methods of being able to preserve that food chain, right? If we're thinking about it that way, right? So that is something that is worth considering. Is the adrenal gland for vampires near the nuts? Because there was this one-off line where it's like, the adrenal gland, and it's like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Why would you say something like that, right? Why would you say that, the fact that they have adrenaline, that means that they have nuts? No, everybody have adrenaline, both male and female. Probably understand. And they both have adrenal glands. So why would vampires be any different? That's what I'm thinking. Right? Yeah. So tell me what you think about these questions. All right. So a few theories here. The Reaper's origins and their engineering. Because when we say Damaskinos, it basically have a field experiment, which is Nomak, right? Him's son. And, well, it is on its way to progress, as they usually say, right? Because his end goal or his objective is to have vampires be able to rule day and night and not have the weaknesses of, the regular vampires and stuff, right? So the fact is that you must have some kind of control of the experiment, right? What could have caused such a uncontrollable mutant to be essentially created, right? It suggests that in some ways it is basically just lost control of the experiment and didn't want to explain a good reason why. And so it just make it just sound like it was all a part of his plan to bring Blade in at the last minute. And there are some other lingering theories is that it's some kind of bioweapon bid that is happening in the complex underworld of these things, right? And if we know the expanded universe, there are a lot of other stuff out there, worse things than vampires. And maybe there's some kind of economy, some market out there that is there for that. And so when you do something like that, you're basically doing it as an exhibit of what you are able to do. So you're basically at the same time testing, you're also marketing the thing. So yeah, it's something I could get behind, in terms of that. There's another thing that I think about in terms of the vampire society. What's their future like? Because Damaskinos' death, it definitely destabilized the council, right, of the purebloods. So what kind of fracture it going to bring? Who's going to take up the reins? Is it going to be somebody worse? Remember Deacon Frost from the first film? Is it going to be somebody like Deacon Frost who just doesn't give a shit? Is there, something that's going to come out of this that's going to be somehow a little bit better or, and not slightly worse? It just seems like it's going to be very, very much so worse, right? Yeah, it doesn't chime well there. But of course, that's the second movie, and there is a third movie, right, to which many persons in the community have not really fully acknowledged because, uh, certain things, right? But we are going to do it because, of course, this is the podcast that attempts to bring sci-fi into reality, and so we have to touch on it. And hopefully, if you like this one, I'll definitely push that one out even sooner than I plan to. Share your theories, whether it be you agreed with my theories or maybe you didn't. If you have your own questions about Blade, just send them in the comments. Type up the keyboards, go on your keypad on your phones, touch your screen and be like, hey, this episode of podcast was great. This is what I like about it. Or if you don't like it, you can also say that too. Just be kind about how you do it, right? In this episode, we looked at Blade 2, the evolution of the Vampire War. And just like how Blade can evolve into so many different facets, he can decide to make the choice to keep his friends close and his enemies even closer. It's a reminder that many times we ought to see certain opportunities as the opportunity to make things better. Blade was on to Scud all along, but he didn't give up the ghost. He didn't use it as a way to inflict pain or hurt on his enemy. He used it as a way in, because even in the deepest, darkest areas, there are still allies. Allies like Nissa that he was able to use, right? Initially, we would have thought that vampires and the Daywalker would not be able to coexist, but yet they were there fighting alongside each other. Just like many who have died in countless different wars for any reason, fighting alongside allies that they might not agree with on every subject, but they are able to come together and agree on something that, hey, this is not good. In our current political climate, we're seeing all sorts of different things on social media, in the news. But we can't forget that it is at these times that we have to be able to rise above all and see it all, put it into perspective. It's not just happening to one part of the world, it's a part of us. It is who we are as human beings. And that's why I constantly remind you to stay human, to see humanity as something to strive to be better at, and not something to say, oh, we are humans, we're animals, so that is why we do things, and so we will continue to be animalistic. No. That's what sets us apart from the other creatures that are in our, who share this biological space, this environment we call Earth. Because we have to preserve it, right? No one now come save us. No one is going to be here other than us. And if we aren't willing to stand for what we believe and communicate in such a way that people can understand and come to consensus and agreement, we have failed and we don't have a future. Neither do our children. And that's not what our ancestors fought for. Whether it be black, white, brown, yellow, whatever you want to call it. Because all of those are constructs. We can come to an understanding that we're all human. We all deserve certain rights things that aren't negotiable. And so we have to recognize what is important at the end of the day. And that is to kick those monsters, those mutants out of, you know what I'm saying? Like how Blade just kick them out and thing. Yeah. So I want to end it on a light note that although we are seeing all of the things and we are aware of what we need to do, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, as I mentioned in my last podcast episode. If you haven't checked it out yet, check it out and recognize that we can become even better. That is why we do, as human beings, we create so many different forms of art, music, film, drama, science fiction. And that's why this podcast exists, to show science fiction and its relationship to reality. And there you have it, another thrilling chapter in our voyage to the universe of sci-fi television. The path ahead leads to 2,000 downloads, and every bit of engagement brings us closer. Follow, comment, and share your thoughts. Until we meet again, keep exploring the unknown. This content is CAN credentialed, which means you can report instances of harassment, abuse, or other harm on their hotline at 617-249-4255 or on their website at creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org.